3, 2, 1. Go Dilbert. Go Dilbert. That was a line from Anora. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks. This is Sardonicast. Hello.
And I'm Alex from IHE, and I'm still here.
Oh. Yeah.
You want to keep going? I can do the whole thing if you want.
Yeah, well, fuck it. Yeah, just that. You can just do that for the rest of the episode, actually.
Okay. Voice for me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that later, though.
You know all the lyrics?
I'm neither going to confirm nor deny that one.
Okay.
I didn't even know that it was the Goo Goo Dolls until literally today.
Yeah, I definitely had a moment where I was like, why does this voice sound so familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the Goo Goo. Lady Goo Goo. We watched a few movies. Anora is out. So Alex was able to see it. I saw it at TIFF. I saw it before you did.
Yeah, I was supposed to see it in London, but I said on that previous episode that a roundabout betrayed me, so I missed my screening on the big nice London screen. But I saw it yesterday next to a coughing granny who I think has given me an illness. But the movie was good though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, having a roundabout betray you in London is like if a moose betrayed me. You're supposed to be friends.
I think moose are a bit more scary than a roundabout.
Moose are terrifying. There was a map of like animal deaths per province in Canada, and just like the highest one was in Alberta, and it just like a picture of a moose. I was like, oh.
Is that from car crashes specifically, or just that they're aggressive as well?
No, I think it's like attacks.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah, people.
They're just they're like a big ball of meat, like on these spindly little legs, and they're giant. Mm-hmm. It's like horrifying.
They're huge. They'll kill you. What do you think of Anora?
It was really interesting and unexpected for me. I realized I hadn't really seen many other Baker films.
Which ones have you?
I saw the Flow Rider Project, but Red Rocket and the other ones have just been on my backlog. So I don't know.
So you've only ever seen the other one? Just that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a bunch of Sean Baker that I haven't seen, but I've seen all of his ones since like 2010, I think.
More recent ones.
Yeah. Tangerine, Red Rocket, Florida Project. I guess that was 2015, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. And I find it interesting always contrasting my experience as a cold Brit and the weird like audiences I have, because it was like making me laugh way more than I was expecting. Like full on like comedy, flipping a bunch of these like tropes of this kind of movie. But like I was the only one laughing, so I was a bit like, what's going on here? But yeah, I loved certain characters it introduced. I loved the kind of tenderness and the way it used sexuality and kind of flipped on his head without going into spoilers. It was just ever so slightly long in the tooth for me with that first act, but it basically compounded on itself and got better and more sort of sensitive and interesting as it went along. Yeah. Especially by like the midpoint when a new kind of group of characters are introduced. It's probably a bit sooner than the midpoint, but that dynamic was so wild. And the comedy especially was what was standing out. It was like it was earnestly funny. It felt like there were stakes. I thought it was a cool kind of spin on the pretty woman kind of Hollywood traditional, falling in love with a hooker and getting married kind of, story you've seen a million times, but the direction it goes, and especially where it ends, feels like quite a fleshed out analysis of this person and the way she's treated by the world.
Yeah, it kind of interjects a bit of reality into it, and the reality becomes like chaotic, and then I do enjoy that it is very much like a character study. Sean Baker's really, really good with like fleshing out characters and making them feel real and making their conversations feel real, even if things are still elevated, even if it's still showing some extremes of these real people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does feel real though. And just spinning tropes on its head with the whole, we haven't mentioned the kind of Russian oligarch side of the story, where that's obviously kind of what kickstarts it, is this young son of an oligarch from Russia basically winds up with this escort that he likes a lot and gets married to her, which obviously doesn't go down well with his insanely powerful parents, and then the mess of like the people underneath his parents coming to try and get the marriage annulled. I won't go any deeper than that unless we go to spoilers. Yeah, I kind of lost what I was putting down just there, but
you were gonna say that the son reminded you of XQC.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Oh my god, this isn't I'm not saying this about XQC, but like that lead Russian oligarch son guy, he was so dislikable to me. He needed like a good strangling, you know? Oh my god. He was so unlikable, but like perfect for that type of character and where it goes, and just kind of emphasizing this idea of I don't know, that level of obscene wealth that like no one can understand, and how people are just used and abused. And I guess the kind of on the nose nature of taking an escort and making it literal. And just where they take those characters and that dynamic. It's kind of brilliant, actually. Without going in spoilers.
Yeah, the inevitable like chaos that this film kind of erupts into, like very outrageous and fun chaos. I feel like in concept, if you had a different writer or a different director even, you could easily just have this being more of like a serious kind of like dramatic, almost like a thriller type story.
Yeah, I thought it might even go like Funny Games, like type direction.
There's like an underlying kind of like creepy and tense nature to it, but it still manages to retain its comedic approach, which I really like, because it's just so outrageous. Like the things that are happening are just so silly. And also it really helps to have like even these side characters just feeling so appropriately cast, like the bald guy, the way that he looks, the way that he kind of reacts to each scene. Like
he is my favorite character.
You can tell there's something happening underneath the surface, even if he doesn't like completely emote to like an exaggerated degree. You can kind of tell that there's things that he's thinking and just kind of observing in a scene.
Mm-hmm. The way it's set up with this, like you're hearing about the Russian oligarchs and the Armenians coming in and the like threats they're posing. You're like, oh my god, is this going to get like violent? Like, where are we going with this? I remember seeing the trailer for this like 6 months ago or something and thinking, oh, that's clearly the obvious way this is going. There's like something intense happening here. But the way they spin it and bring it into more of like going against that violent mob like archetype and kind of making them feel weirdly way more realistic as characters, and the way they're arguing and just whipping out these little jokes in relation to the kind of absurdity of the wealth dynamics and like their position and what they're trying to do, and just going on this wild goose chase basically for this like 20-year-old Russian dude in New York. It's like inherently funny.
Yeah, it is very much taking characters that in any other piece of media would be like relatively flat, and they are kind of used for the trope, but they're very much just being humanized and just exploring like what they would do, what they would say, what they would think. Yeah, because like how many movies are you going to find where you have this sort of scenario where it's like, okay, these Russian guys with I forget if they brought guns. I saw it like a couple of years ago, but you know, these like henchmen basically, right, show up.
Yeah, they're threatening. They've got like an imposing aura.
Yeah, every other piece of media that you'd see that type of character in, it's just like, okay, they're there to fulfill this exact plot device, and that's all there is to them. But no, they get fleshed out, and there's more to them. And they still fulfill the plot devices that they need to. But but they actually interact with the story and are very much a part of the character writing.
I liked the commitment to the Russian language as well. Like it's one of Anora's character traits. That's why she kind of is chosen to be with him to begin with is that she understands Russian, doesn't really like speaking it, and is kind of rusty verbalizing it, but can understand it, so that it avoids that, and goofy Russian stereotype voice you can imagine.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah,
Mikey Madison was fucking awesome. She was great.
She was very good.
She might get an Oscar nom. I'm hoping it would be crazy if she didn't. Like, this seems to be like a front runner awards sort of thing.
Yeah, she was a standout performance, a great lead character that hammered home the kind of ideas they were going for. But man, I love that Igor character, especially where it winds up, where it takes that lead Anora character. I think the best scene in the movie is the final scene. I won't say what it is in detail, but
yeah, I was really impressed with that. We'll get into that in a second, I guess. We'll talk spoilers in a bit. I just wanted to mention I absolutely love the cinematography, the way the camera kind of like flows and moves around. The color correction, the color grading is really vibrant, and just everything looks really beautiful in this film.
Yeah, the natural lighting as they are like running around that pier.
Yeah,
end of the night, and yeah, it's really memorable as far as that stuff's concerned.
Yeah, the editing also really helps with the look of the film, because
yeah, you're right.
There's a great variety of like short scenes and long scenes, so much of the film is kind of like almost like a montage, like really kind of quick, just tiny shots showing that these things happened over some period of time. But it doesn't feel like ADHD, because there are plenty of really long takes, a lot of oneers. It's just whatever's appropriate for the scene, and it shows a great variety. And at no point does it feel like any one of these styles is being used as a crutch. It's very much just for the narrative purpose in the story. And there's a lot of effort going into everything.
And I noticed in the opening credits, Baker was credited as the editor. I don't know if he edits all his films, but I like seeing that.
Yeah.
There was something like 1-to-1 implied from seeing that level of commitment to the editing of it. But yeah, I felt for that first act, there was, I don't know, I feel like it might flow better on a second for me, but I was kind of feeling a bit of repetition with this character dynamic with Anora and this Russian asshole. And it felt like it was just taking a while to establish what was really the hook of the movie for me, which was basically when it becomes like a group dynamic, and it leans like more into the humor instead of like the kind of montage, as you say, of like sex scene. Then they're like playing a video game, pretending really badly to play Gears of War, and then another sex scene, and then so on.
I think it is kind of important to keep the the first half as a slow burn type of thing, because I think that it adds to this layer of helping us understand this kind of world that she was fantasizing and envisioning, and we kind of get an understanding of what was at stake for her, like this idea of something being stripped away from her, taken away from her, something that she's actually fighting for. And so I do think that it is important to showcase that in more than just like a quick sort of, hint at it.
Yeah, to sell you on the fantasy. I guess it was more just like random details. I don't know. I just, maybe like 10 minutes is all I'm asking for.
Sure.
I don't know if I needed like the rivalry with the other escort, and I don't know, that didn't feel like a big payoff to me compared to everything going on with the Russian and Armenian side of things. That felt like that was just growing and growing, getting better, whereas that other side of it was less interesting to me.
Well, no, because I also feel like that does kind of say a bit more about the main character as well. Like, she feels like she has something to prove to others, and she feels like some sense of insecurity and needs to be able to show others that she's doing well, sort of thing. Like, she very much kind of strives to have this lifestyle, not just for herself, but almost like out of spite towards others. Like, you can tell that that's something that she very much that's like a part of her fantasy, is being able to go like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Look, you're stuck here and I'm not, even though they were like both in the same position like not too long ago. Just
I guess I just got more of a rewarding, like as far as that angle is concerned, more of a rewarding payoff with her discussions with the Russian characters when that comes in more towards the end.
Okay, yeah, we can talk spoilers.
Yeah, okay. Spoilers, everybody. Definitely go see Anora.
Everybody watch the movie.
Yeah, really great stuff. But this Eagle character, who's kind of set up as, as we're saying, the stereotype. He's kind of, the way he's holding her on the sofa after that grappling match and smashing up the whole like comedy of errors, breaking nose nonsense, and he's tying her up, and it kind of, I don't know, it looks really bad for him.
Yeah.
But the way that comes back on itself later in the movie, where he's tasked with taking her back home after the marriage is annulled. And they're just like sitting on the couch, sharing cigarettes, and they have that. I love that dialogue about he's obviously Russian and not the best with English, and he says touche instead of touche, and that whole thing.
Carte blanche.
And there is like a chemistry there. Yeah, carte. But seeing as you brought that, I was going to bring this up later, but you brought it up. I have to. I have to mention this because there are too many like comments and reference in regards to carte blanche to not address this, because I don't know, people think when I have been saying that in recent episodes that it's like it's in earnest that I'm saying it this way.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how to say it properly.
That's great.
There's like a comment I screenshot. Alex, for the love of God, go to Merriam-Webster and listen how to pronounce carte blanche. It's like, man,
that's so good.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, that's The Idol reference.
Yeah, watch The Idol, everybody. Jeez, where have you been?
I guess that's on me for not... I guess that's on me for assuming everyone has seen The Idol.
Well, we meme on it.
That old chestnut, but...
So you guys learn the memes, okay? We can spot the real fans and the fake fans. So get on our level.
But people get so angry about that kind of thing. But yeah, touche, and that Eagle character. Man, where it ends up, I feel like is such a... I don't know, I was getting frustrated at a certain point of like, the Sonora character, she's headstrong, but there's something almost like one note about this way she's being presented. I need where's the vulnerability to this character? Where's a bit more depth to her? And just in that one scene at the very end where she kind of initiates sex with Igor in the car right after he mentions that it's his grandma's car, which is like the moment she flips, and he is like the complete inverse of the oligarch son, basically, who's like handed everything, and I don't know, it's just a symbol of ultimate wealth, basically, and this is a fairly normal guy in comparison, who like listens to her and actually has conversations and connects with her. And then it's like the only moment of real intimacy in the movie is that sex scene, despite all of the other like gratuitous sex scenes that are throughout the film. It's the only one that feels like a real moment for her, and it's the same one, coincidentally, where she breaks down in tears, and it is like a heartbreaking, like she needs to let out this, because it takes place over the course of a week, and in montage form, it's like boom, 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 that she's experienced so much in this time. So to just watch her, especially her performance in that moment, her kind of just like snap and let it out, is so like therapeutic and honest and real. That's an amazing scene and a brilliant bullet point to end it on.
Yeah, I think it also kind of just highlights my interpretation of her breaking down is that she's kind of like faced with the reality or like realization, almost kind of having like an ego death of like her viewing sex as something transactional. Yeah. That, you know, like he does her this favor and then she's like, okay, well, you know, she's paying him back the only way that she knows how to. And it's almost as if she, you know, is hating herself because she doesn't get to experience like that sort of real intimacy with anyone. And also, like, he's the first character in the movie that's literally just like treated her like a human being.
Exactly. Yeah.
And not just like some sort of thing to use or thing to try to, you know, criticize and other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, everyone else is way more combative with her. But that leads to some of the best comedy. The like Armenian dude who's like has to leave the baptism he's doing or something. And I thought he was maybe one of the funniest characters because he's just like so over it. He's so frustrated by the situation he's in, like stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's clearly been dealing with this kid for like years and years, and this is just so far for him. And he's like scared, obviously, because of who he works for. And there's that amazing scene where he's in the diner, like just showing pictures of the oligarch's son. It's like, and he goes on like a rant about phones, and you're just on your TikTok and fucking Instagram, and it's so funny and just clever the way it comes out. And his underling as well, who gets his nose broken, he has some amazing humor that comes out. And the clever little scene where they're in the plane talking to the oligarch and his wife himself, and he's trying to he shoos away the Armenian dude with his broken nose, and who's kind of high on the pills that Igor was giving him, because he's kind of overly thanking them for giving him the opportunity in his job, and it's like not coming across well, and he pushes him away, and then he just immediately starts doing the same thing, just to highlight this like grotesque power dynamic these Russian mega people have. And they were also like they were in it briefly, but they were great characters. The way the dad was just kind of laughing at like Anora's pinpoint comments on what she's saying about their horrible family and like what they represent and everything, while he just laughs in the background. And yeah, it never feels like too much as far as that like commentary of like, yeah, poor, good, rich, bad. Like it doesn't feel that simplistic. It feels more like this is a fun dynamic to watch, and you're like characterizing all these people just enough. This is, just entertaining from beginning to end with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm looking through his filmography, Sean Baker, and it just occurred to me that the Florida Project is the only one that like really blew up, like to the degree where it hit like mainstream kind of pop culture.
Yeah, there wasn't much about Red Rocket, right?
No, I liked that one way more.
Maybe you mentioning it.
Yeah. Nobody saw that one. That was kind of weird.
It's got a fun little premise.
Yeah, and that one was at Con 2, I think, but didn't win the Palme d'Or. Anora is sure to get some mainstream attention at the Oscars, I should hope. It would be crazy if it didn't. And then Tangerine was big for an indie film, but not like a big film. Like it was huge for a film that was shot on an iPhone 4. Like literally.
Yeah, that's all I know about it.
Yeah, I would recommend both of those for sure. Yeah, Tangerine is hilarious. Has a lot of the same very similar chaotic energy in terms of like the chaotic humor and things like kind of building in this like tense kind of argumentative way. It reminded me Anora reminded me a lot of Tangerine in that sense. Yeah, watch both of those. I think you'd enjoy them. So,
yeah, I definitely will. After this one, I'm glad he seems to have. I don't know. It's really taking off this one. It seems.
Yeah.
With the Palme d'Or and audience reaction.
He's a really interesting director, and I like his approaches to like finding types of characters to explore and humanize. Because a lot of people just aren't. You know, a lot of his movies involve like trashy characters, and sure, he does still kind of exploit that comedically, like many other films would. But he goes a little bit deeper than that, like enough so that it doesn't feel so exploitative or cynical. Or
so it almost goes against itself immediately with that opening shot of like he's going past all the escorts and like a really immediately overtly sexual, like there ain't much being hidden in that opening shot.
No.
And it's like a really great way to introduce that character too. Like it kind of just says everything you need to know as far as like, oh, this is where we're starting with her, I guess. Like we're getting straight into this, like literally.
I want to see more Baker, because Baker be cooking.
God damn it. God damn it.
So I'm giving Anora
what the fuck?
a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm slightly below you. I did enjoy it a hell of a lot, as I say. I think it got better as it went along. Maybe it flows better on a rewatch, but I could have done with maybe 10 minutes shorter here. But yeah, this is like a solid 8 out of 10 for me. 4-star.
Fantastic.
Great performances. Love that Igor character and his dynamic with the main character. Yeah, it feels really honest and well written.
Toss them some Oscars. Just fucking throw it at them.
Yeah. I might actually watch this year because I saw Conan's going to host it.
Yeah, news as of like what, today?
I think literally today is recording. Yeah. So cool. Like, I might actually watch it for the first time.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. It starts at like 2 a.m. for me no matter what. So
well, you should drink a Monster. You know what I've been doing?
Drink a Monster. Ruin my sleep schedule for the whole week? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
For the Oscars? There's a novelty drink that I tried once, and it was actually not as bad as I thought it would be. So I'm going to send you the subreddit. It's a very small community.
Gonster.
A Gonster. So it's like a layered...
I thought it was like Gonster at first. Start getting scared.
It's like a black and tan, but it's Guinness and Monster Energy.
Wait, and you buy that like pre-packaged?
No, you mix them together. The day they come pre-packaged is the day that we're vindicated. Is the day that we're recognized as a society. The Gonster drinkers will rise up.
Well, this is niche. 885 readers.
Oh, look, I mean, there's some things that I just attach myself onto that I get.
How the fuck did you find this?
I don't know. I don't know how I found it.
I mean, I like Guinness. I haven't had a Monster in a while.
It's actually not bad.
They got some okay flavors. You know, I think they got the Lewis Hamilton flavor. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but the problem is, so I got the regular Monster, and then I was like, why does mine don't look as good as the subreddit pictures? I apparently needed to get Monster Nitro, which is like the more green, like glowy green one. But I can't find that anywhere in Canada. So maybe I'll add that on my list of things to get while I'm in the States, actually. I'm going to get a Monster Nitro so I can have a true Gonster. That's exactly what I need.
There's something very kind of Halloween-y. I'm looking at pictures of it. It looks like a Halloween-y kind of drink as far as how it looks. But I don't know if I like that name, Gonster.
What do you mean? What's wrong with the name Gonster?
Gonster's to Gonster.
No one was thinking Gonster except you. And Gonster is not a word.
Fine. It is now.
So do you hate the word goner because it's too close to gooner? Is that what you're saying? You don't like the word gone?
That's another pet peeve of mine.
So you look at a fucking David Fincher movie.
Goon Girl.
Yeah, Goon Girl. That's what you think when you look at that poster?
Yeah, you're making me realize maybe this is a me problem.
Yeah.
But it's not just a me problem. This is crazy. This is crazy that you've even found
it. Is just a you problem, and your criticism
we're both
of gooning
we're both crazy for
has
this
turned
one.
you into a gooner, because now you're doing the exact same thing that community is doing. You are mind infected, always thinking about gooning.
Gooned on the word gooner.
Yeah, no, because you're always thinking about it, and you're hopeless, and you have to give in to the fact that you're a gooner forever.
Well, at least I'm not drinking Gonsters. I'll just leave it there.
That has nothing to do with gooning.
What does it do to you?
What does it do to you? A little bit of alcohol, a little bit of caffeine. I mean, a lot of caffeine and some taurine.
You can't drink normal coffee,
ginseng.
Though, can you? How can you drink a Monster but not like a regular coffee?
I don't know. Coffee makes me more like fucked up than an energy drink for some reason. But I have to. I still have it like earlier in the day. So Gonster is like a morning drink. I've only had it once though.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll be worried if you're starting every single day this way.
No.
So maybe that's maybe I will just for Oscars night, just to watch Conan drink a Gonster. Fuck. Solar Field.
All right. We watched an anime called...
People getting scared?
Called Ruku Baku, which is the real title, but it's actually Look Back. And it's based off of a manga, and the manga was made by the same guy that did Chainsaw Man, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was looking Letterboxd at some of the other stuff this director had done. I wasn't familiar personally, but yeah, sorry, finish your intro.
I mean, I don't know. I was going to ask what you thought about it. It's only 50 something minutes long. It's less than an hour.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason I watched it.
That was, one of my final notes was like, give us more of these. This is a nice runtime.
Yeah.
Sometimes you only have enough sort of for like an hour, or only need an hour to tell your story. And I still feel like I got a narrative here that said a lot, that got me thinking. I only watched this a couple hours ago as of us recording this.
Nice.
So it's still fresh. But I thought it was beautiful and did a lot and went unexpected ways. But the first thing I actually wrote down was, this is going to break my heart, isn't it? It just has that feeling about it. That music, it's using the like kind of reverse sounds where it's like something that's been made and flipped on itself. And then these strings and the piano. It's like, oh man, this is going to break my heart, huh? But obviously it gets you in with that just incredible animation. It's frame heavy. It's varied all over the place. At first, I thought it was going to be like, oh, is this like a little collection of different styles of animation anthology type thing that we're going for here?
But it almost seemed like it was going to be.
It's way more about like exactly. But it's much deeper than that. It's more about sort of the artistic process, and what I was kind of really delving into was this idea of these two artist characters. One that's a background artist, and one that's more of does the kind of story side and has a competitive streak in her, and they, develop their relationship as artists together, and one's a recluse, and they form this earnest little relationship together, and kind of delving into this idea of one wanting more of a commercial slant to their art, which is fine, and the other side of the artist who's more about taking her time. There's all this dialogue about her being slower and that she can't keep up, even though she's getting better, and kind of wants to improve on her own terms, and how that affects their relationship, and where the two different ways they interpret their art and how it can like clash. And I don't know, that's a really nice kind of quiet style of conflict to build this around.
Yeah, like a good contrast, a good mix. There's a better word for it, man. I just woke up. I need a Gonster.
No.
Need a Gonster to start.
Actually, yeah.
Nah, not today. I might be seeing my aunt later. She's from out of town.
Your auntie.
Yeah. This was I thought this was really, really good. And I completely agree. Like, I want more hour-long things. And it's not like I want everything to be an hour-long thing. I just want there to be less of a stigma around hour-long things. Because it's like, it's barely a feature. A feature is like officially around 49 minutes or something is the minimum. It's somewhere in the 40
I was about to ask
range.
that. Yeah, I thought it was like 45 around.
It might actually vary officially by country. I'm not sure, but it's somewhere in the 40 minutes. And there are films that I've seen like at film festivals that are about an hour long, and then just can't find any real distribution because people are scared of it, or studios think people are scared of it, so they're scared of it, or distributors, So I wish there was less of a stigma around this, because sometimes the story should be exactly as long as what works for the story. There's so many different films that kill themselves pacing wise and make themselves unwatchable by trying to stretch itself into more of a traditional runtime, like 90 minutes, where they're like, well, I want to make a feature, especially documentaries. It's like, okay, this real thing happened. You can't write anymore. What do? You just like pad it with all the interview footage and just like stretch out the editing and make things slower paced. Like, go fuck yourselves. Too many documentaries fall into that exact same trap. With animation, there's, a relatively good excuse to keep it short too, is because it's stupid expensive. And
time consuming, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of like older Disney films, like even in the Renaissance era, you can see some of those runtimes. It's like, oh wow, this is really short compared to what they're releasing today. So yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, if the movie's bad, it's still a bad hour-long movie. This just happened to be a really, really well-made one.
Do you think it's like a perceived lack of like value? Of like, oh, it's not legitimate because it's not 3 hours long and doesn't take my whole day up watching it.
I mean, like, I think to some extent there might be a mindset of people thinking like, oh, who's going to leave their house and go to the theater just for like an hour? Apparently this did get a theatrical release, and there was like a filmed version of like an interview with the director like 10 minutes after the movie or something. Right. So that added on some value, I guess. But
was it on Amazon Prime for you? Because it was for me in the UK.
It was on Amazon Prime. But yeah, especially with like streaming existing now, like we're not confined to length. There have been more weird runtimes released on streaming services now that that's an option.
Mm-hmm. I say experiment with it. Let's go. Let's figure out what works. And this is 58 minutes. That's perfect for this story. I wouldn't want any more or less.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's also just unpredictable, like where it goes. Like it is about the artistic process, but it covers many years of their lives and their kind of relationship, their working relationship together. And starting with, they're in like, I don't know what grades are. I guess it's like primary school, or is that early secondary school that they're talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The point is they form their relationship based off this kind of competitive streak of trying to be in the school newspaper, the manga artist in the featured newspaper each week or month or whatever it is. And the main character has kind of a big head from being, but the class is like, whoa, these are amazing. Your art is so good, you could be a professional artist. And then the comparison being the thief of joy moment when the other character has some sort of like anxiety that means she can't leave the house and she's kind of trapped indoors, but that leads her to be this incredible background artist. That's like her passion. And she manages to get featured in the same column in the school newspaper. So of course this lead character sees that and is destroyed by it at first, but then it leads to, I don't know, it covers like a lot of different creative attitudes where, yeah, sometimes that competition can be the spark that's like, okay, well, I got to improve then. And, you know, she gets all the anatomy books and she does the research and she puts the time in again and again, like over years and years, trying to improve, and then winds up quitting. And yeah, just exploring this idea of like, there's always going to be someone better than you. And so you got to find your own sort of, chart your own course as far as like what you want from this thing. Why are you doing this thing to begin with?
Yeah.
Maybe, and where it winds up with them being more like collaborators, where I did like the touch of the background artist kind of taking more of a literal background role. And I don't know how there's all this art being done in the show, in the film, and the look of it with these kind of loose sketchy style, but it's still really frame heavy, and there's all these kind of loose smear frames when they're running around, and it's just, I don't know, all complements itself really well with the look of it, with the way it moves.
Yeah. What really helped the look of this film for me was just how clearly it was like envisioned and realized, like the wide variety of different ways to show a scene. Like it wasn't stale. It wasn't just like paint by numbers. You know, all of these really, really interesting and cool perspective shots, like, you know, you're through the POV of someone like running through a hallway, or, you know, like that shot of someone running in a field. It's almost like a drone shot. The camera swoops from the sky and then like tilts to be level with the horizon and follows them. Like really, really interesting. It's very well stylized, and just, I want to see more things like that. And it's insane to think that there's so many films that are within the medium of animation that don't take the opportunity to express themselves in creative ways. Like, the sky is your limit. You can do anything. You can show the scene in whatever fucking way you want. You just got to be creative, and you just got to want to put some effort into it. Right? Like,
that's why I've always loved it. Yeah, it seems like the potential is literally endless.
Yeah.
There are no limitations outside of, obviously, money and time being the biggest ones. But yeah, as you said, some of the angles they're pulling out, some of the camera movements they're incredible.
Yeah.
And like the detail to it, just like the complexity of like a door frame moving within a 2D animated drawn image is something surprisingly complex, but they'll do it. And it didn't have the kind of Treasure Planet CG look to some of the environments. It seemed like,
no,
I don't know what kind of trickery they were doing there, but that scene where she skips home after being gassed up by the background artist, that again, that's just an incredible, like, free, loose way of interpreting it. The not really relying on dialogue to hammer home like the feelings or emotions of a character, and you're seeing the perspective of like the raindrops coming down. It's perfectly achieved with that kind of stuff.
And in that sense, I feel like the runtime really helps this story, because the creative choices like that, and almost kind of this montagey nature of pretty much the entire film, it allows for so much variety in terms of how to show something, just different ways that a scene can be expressed. Whereas if you padded it and like there was 30 more minutes and it was just like mostly dialogue scenes, then, there might not be as much opportunity, or it might not feel as genuine. It might not feel as inspired. The fact that they were able to have this almost kind of like, dreamlike pacing even to it, I think really added for them having these opportunities to showcase everything in a really interesting way. Like it's as if we took a 90-minute film, like one of those where we were just saying like, just trim out the fat. It's like we got the final version of that fantasy that we've had of other movies. Yeah. It's like they actually did that, but there was never any version where we had to say that.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And yeah, just the amount of kind of ideas that it covers, a lot of films or books or whatever about, like art that's about the process of making art or whatever, like Megalopolis, But this actually explores it in ways that are thought-provoking, that are relatable. I don't know, just even if it's for a 5-minute sequence or less, just the idea of like the ostracization that the main character has from once she puts her head down and is dedicated to that kind of isolation of getting good at something, and then people like talking down to her, aren't you getting too old to keep drawing?
What are you, a baby?
And just these kind of things put in there. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Do you want to go into spoilers?
Yeah, I think it's time. Everybody watch this. We both enjoyed it very much. Look Back, Amazon Prime. It's short. It requires no time commitment, really.
Low investment on Amazon Prime. You probably already got it. Give it a shot.
Yeah. Spoiler time.
And we're both pretty critical of a lot of like anime tropes as well, and it didn't seem to be held back by that either.
I rarely like animes.
Yeah, so
it has to be special for me to like it this much.
Give it a shot. But does it like take a turn with the fucking axe attack? Something that could have really ruined this film, I think, if they didn't handle that with care, and the execution of that. It was actually the execution that made it kind of hit home for me.
Yeah.
Being in the perspective of that main character, just kind of hearing it in this nonchalant way on the news and just trying to call her phone and not getting a response. And the whole sort of, you mentioned the dreamlike nature of it, and the what it sparks in the lead character once that the background artist is murdered. And it's not gratuitous. It gets to the line almost with there is like a dream sequence that it delves into that's all instigated from her visiting her childhood home, and there's this ongoing theme of the four panels, the four manga panels, and what that represents to her at different times. At one time it's her giving up, another time it's her being inspired on the spot, and it's the thing that got her back into art and reunited her love for it. And of course is the amazing kind of where it ends with her pinning up that empty canvas, as it were, the four panels on the glass above where she works and continues on. But then like delving into the whole like her blaming herself for what happened and all these kind of natural emotions one must go through with experiencing this kind of horror or loss. And it doesn't get too lost in itself for me, despite how like kind of out of left field and extreme that is for the like axe wielding murderer to come in and kill like 10 students or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And of course that being like central to the conflict of she wanted to go to art school just kind of for herself to improve her art, even despite having this opportunity in her face with like this manga taking off led by this main character, and their kind of argument over that. And her, I know there's a really mean line about her, well, you're just a background artist anyway, which she probably doesn't mean, but it's like her frustrated and upset in the moment, and it's how it's coming out. And there's just something real and sad about that. And there is like a gatekeepery thing a lot of the time with like creative people and artists, and it's very like judgmental a lot of the time, and it can be like petty like that, which is why I like how it loops back on itself. And it's like she looked back and sees the alternate world where, she could, the power fantasy of her, like, and the wish fulfillment of her saving the life or whatever. And if I just stuck to karate and never did this art stuff, and maybe it would all worked out and she wouldn't have been lost. But ultimately coming back to like looking back and using it as more of an inspiration to move forward instead of it being something to end her creativity. So, and this is crazy. All of these concepts for like under an hour long film. I love it.
Yeah, it's tight.
It's just to grapple with all this stuff.
Did you catch the butterfly effect poster in the background of one of the shots?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah, it was there. And then that it kind of, as she was going through this only happened because I wrote this panel and it went under the door and inspired and she would still be alive sort of thing. That kind of tied into the butterfly effect nature of it, where I almost thought in that scene, because of them showing that poster, once we got to the alternate vision of a different reality, or, the ripped piece of paper going underneath the door and her potentially saving her from the axe murderer, I almost thought that it was like going into like a literal butterfly effect type film, but then it just turned out to be like an exploration of her grief, which works great, honestly. But yeah, I love that. I love that there was that little nod there that kind of hinted at what types of ideas they were exploring.
Yeah, I was scared of it randomly going to like veer into the supernatural and somehow undo. That would make it feel like corny and cheesy if they did undo that horror happening, the attack at the school. And yeah, it was kind of what you're saying about animation in general, just using that 5-10 minute stretch to explore a dream sequence and avoid that, that horror movie trope where there's a fake scare or whatever, and they're having, it was just a dream the whole time. Isn't that scary? It was like, no, this is like a character moment. We're exploring the where the character is at that time, what she maybe wishes could have happened, her emotional state. And it feels like a good use of time and a good way of exploring those complex emotions that come from something so horrendous. So,
did you ever hear of the Kyoto Animation arson attack?
No,
you never heard of that? Okay, so there was
that sounds horrifying.
Yeah, there was a real tragedy that happened in 2019 in Japan, where like an established animation studio, a crazy guy who thought that he was being plagiarized and just had a lot of mental illness.
Oh, so is that kind of based on...
yeah, so that's the speculation. I don't know if it's ever been confirmed by the manga artist, but the original manga was published apparently like literally on the 2-year anniversary of that attack.
Right. Yeah, I'm just reading the Wikipedia now. This is horrible.
Yeah, I was definitely reminded of that with the whole, you plagiarized from me, and just like going in and attacking people. So yeah, it is horrifying. And so it seems as if there was some inspiration from that.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if that was delving more into another unfortunate reality of kind of the art world and corporate art, and how so much is stolen, not to like justify what he does or whatever, but just to have those ideas in there and have the motivation be linked to it, at least in some way. Instead of it just being completely random. It's still like based in the art world.
Yeah. Yeah, I just this is a very dark film, but still not so it doesn't feel like an exercise in like nihilism. It doesn't feel like completely,
it's almost the opposite.
Yeah. There's some like meaning to it.
Yeah, it seemed like it was contrasting, like looking back and seeing what was lost instead of what was gained, but ending on the beat of looking back and sitting with what was gained instead of what was lost, and going on from there, and it not being the end, at least for this main character.
Yeah, even before it got into the, axe murdering part, I was appreciating just how like delightfully morbid some of the parts even early on were, like that.
The reincarnation.
Yeah.
That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. The reincarnation and the car crash and just the way in which it was handled, the style that it chose to present itself as. I found that to be great.
With the over the top kids drawings and the blood like squirting out of their mouths, and the juxtaposition of that is funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely watch this again. This is for sure on my 2024 list type movie.
Yeah, I'll happily watch this again. I was quite surprised at the directions it took, the unpredictable nature of it, I don't know, just what it was exploring with the whole art angle and what it was saying with that. A random shot I want to shout out was a lot of close-ups on the main character's face once she receives the traumatic news, and it's often like the like anime trope or whatever, when something crazy happens and they zoom in on the face and the irises are empty and whatnot. But the choice of having these, so already a sort of loose art style, but for when she's like despondent, close up on her face and her eyes are like empty and like the color is drained from her, and the iris of her eyes are these like even looser scribbles than normal, and it's like, yes, you're communicating everything you need to without a single word there. I love that. And this is exactly what we're saying about animation. Really beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Awesome movie. For now, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
I'm slightly higher than you on this one. This was a 4.5 star 9. I don't know, I did find it emotional. I loved those main characters and just what it was saying about creativity and art and the drawing world and the competition and the dedication and isolation that comes from that. It's everything I want to see in a movie, and it's animated, so it's literally what I'm always going on about and asking for. So
yeah. I was thinking of having just like an entirely animated podcast day. I was like, I'll watch The Wild Robot. Then it was so boring. I shut it off.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to mention The Wild Robot, because I did watch that a few weeks ago.
I had to shut it off. It was so boring.
What point did you shut it off?
Well, like 30 minutes through. I wanted to shut it off at like 15, and I was like, well, I'll give it a bit more.
Was it the whole main character duck or whatever, or goose? That was, because I didn't love that either.
It was riding off of like very mild stylization and this like feel good, very safe, like cute vibe that just like, sure, I'm sure works great for some people, but like you can't sell me on that alone. Like, yeah, the animation's good. It's very, very well animated, and there's some stylization that I like, but like I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of like we have Wall-E at home sort of thing. Like I just, and also
it was hyper saccharine.
Yeah, even though it's based off of a book where I'm sure there was dialogue in it, I found myself just wishing there wasn't any. I just found myself imagining a better movie where they didn't spell things out as much.
Yeah, I love the look of the movie, but it was, I just didn't care about the story. And there's like this pop song did you get to the pop song?
No.
That was, because I was really like trying to get into it. And the story does get like a lot better after the half an hour point, believe it or not. Where it seems like at first it's just going to be about this like robot raising a goose. It's like, it feels almost like a nursery type story. Like it was like so simplistic, just not really for me. Whereas like, I don't know, I think I like the How to Train Your Dragon stuff like a lot more than you, but I was kind of expecting something more like that, a bit more earnest, but a bit more, just a better lead character and something to him and a more interesting dynamic. And it does get better as it goes along, but it's also, I don't know, it wasn't really my thing. I only kind of settled with it by the end of it. It's like a 3-star for me, like a 6 out of 10. I did like the look of it. I just didn't like that narrative very much.
As I was watching, I was like, this is it. This is a best case scenario 6 out of 10.
Right.
I had to leave.
Yeah.
It was just such a waste of time. And because of leaving, I was able to watch Look Back.
I definitely got a hell of a lot more out of Look Back.
It's a good thing to abandon movies that are not going to do it for you. It's not my thing. Doesn't have to be my thing.
I tend to find the half an hour rule is pretty good for like, if there's something that's just really not connecting with you, it's like, man, I've given you half an hour. That's often like the first act kind of setup time. If there's nothing about it you like, I mean, why even continue?
Why?
Yeah.
You recommended a movie.
Oh yeah, I recommended the movie. I recommended 2002's Treasure Planet.
You're just killing it with your recommendations nonstop.
Well, yeah, I actually am. Especially with this one. So yeah, 2002's Treasure Planet. Let me just get up the directors' names. They are big in the Disney animation space, known for, this is Ron Clements and John Musker, who directed The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Princess and the Frog, and Moana, and of course, Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet being maybe the most controversial out of all of those, as far as it almost single-handedly destroying 2D animation for Disney. And we can get into the hows and whys of that, but it's, I don't know, it's an easy jumping on point. It's Treasure Island in space with an amazing sprinkling of 2002 Bionicle core is what I'm calling it. You got the surfing, you got the skateboarding thing, the alt rock, that Halo 2 shredding electric guitar. I mean, this film's a warm blanket for me, even though the blanket does smell a little bit like wee. I need to give it a wash.
It's a piss blanket for babies.
But I find this film very likable, actually. I think it has its issues, and I'm sure we'll get into those. In fact, can I predict what your issues are?
Yeah, please do it.
Let me see. Oh man, you were done with it before Ben shows up, right?
Yes.
Was there like a moment where you're like, nah, I'm not about this?
I would, if it weren't for us, for me feeling obligated to finish it for the sake of the podcast, I would have shut it out. I would have just shut off the movie as soon as Fart character showed up. Like I immediately had an urge to stop watching the film at that moment. Mm-hmm. And then the second time was when the robot showed up.
That is one of the... It's so weird because this is these directors, their passion project movie. They wanted to make it, I think in the 90s, but the producers were like, no, you got to do The Little Mermaid. No, you got to do Aladdin. And by the time they got to Hercules, it was like, look, we'll do Hercules if we can do our baby, our little boy, Treasure Planet. And I guess they got their wish, and they got handed, let me get the exact number here.
It's a monkey's paw type wish.
$140 million US, which is...
That's a lot.
That is a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. 2002.
In 2002.
Lion King was like $45 million a decade before. Just throwing that out there.
And even like Princess and the Frog, which came out after this and was the true, nail in the coffin for these 2D animated Disney movies, that was still less than that. I think that was more around $100 million for that one. But yeah, I do actually see the like passion project in there, because there's just some disproportionately amazing stuff. I feel I really like the main character and his dynamic with the villain. I think the villain rocks in this movie. I love this villain. I love him. I love the design of him. I love the way he moves. I think there's some really great animation, and there is some like age stuff with the CG, like especially when they introduce the moon base thing, and there's like these flying seagull manta ray things, and they look like they're out of like a PS2 game, like literally.
Yeah, it's not blended very well,
especially because I hadn't seen this. I like watched this on my projector, and I haven't seen this in a while either. So it's like, oh god, some of that looks really rough. But this was banging in 2002. This film blew my mind. For the record, I was 8 years old when I saw this, and it's like perfect for that. I was like the perfect target demographic. The angst of it, and like just that feeling of that main character. He's skateboarding around like a bionicle, or boarding around on his solar sail. I love when he's introduced after he's reading the kid's book, and he's flying around the abandoned metalworks, and the cops get him. I dig it. And I'm not bored by any of this. I think it flows really well. I think the Treasure Island story is just a kind of a great story. And it's what Disney have done time and time again. I'm kind of crestfallen just by, why they had to put in so many comedic relief characters. They had the fart guy. They got the blob thing, they got the robot guy, they got the dog guy, they got the cat lady. It's like, man, we're so close to this being on the level of perhaps like an Aladdin or something. And I don't know if that's what they were thinking with the whole Ben character once he shows up, because I actually kind of like the idea of that character. He's based on one of the characters from the original Treasure Island book. He's supposed to have like lost his mind or whatever, making him a robot and this kind of steampunky thing. And I like the look of him. I think the animation is good on him. It's just more like, why did they let Martin Short do that? He screams every line. Oh my god, it's like
I was pretty tuned out after he showed up. I'm just like the second half of this movie is just, I didn't absorb it. At all.
And I was reading the voice actor for Ham from Toy Story was considered for that Ben character. And I was like, man, why couldn't we have done that?
Yeah.
Just subdue him a little bit. There's enough going on by that point. You don't really need comedy. The stakes are raised. There's like this, the key conflict of him and Silver, I feel is like really strong, and they have a handful of these weirdly great scenes of dialogue with them that feel, I don't know, honest and true and sad. Like this sad 15-year-old boy who's abandoned by his dad, and then he gets his surrogate dad who is also kind of an asshole and betrays him, and the classic kind of Indiana Jonesy ending of him having to choose between the money or the boy. It's, we've seen it before, but I think it's good for the framing of this movie, and comes together well as an arc for that villain character. And again, I love his design. I love that scene of him cutting stuff up in the chef hall as the camera's panning around. I think it looks really great. A lot of the animation here, expressive and weighty, and a lot of the character design I think is really solid too. Takes a lot of the CG stuff out, and the farting guy or whatever. All the other stuff I like. I like Morph, the little shape-shifting guy. I don't mind that level of humor in this movie. That's like about as much as it needed, I think, with how serious other stuff is, because there is like I don't know, it feels like there's stakes to this. Mr. Arrow like getting sucked into the black hole, and that leads to the Making of Greatness scene, which I've always loved and still love and will occasionally watch because I just love that scene. Great animation work in there, super expressive. The score complements it really well. I think the score is really good all around. I like that main theme a lot. James Newton Howard. Yeah, I love going back to the character design, the turtle guy at the beginning. There's so many great ones throughout the film in the way you'd expect from like a Disney 2D animated film back when they kind of cared about that.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is that it is the way you would expect. It's a fucking paint by numbers movie. It does everything to basically the bar of expectation slightly below for me in most cases. Like, I don't know. You say you love the score. I find it the exact type of score that you could absolutely just replace with another movie exactly like this, and no one would be able to tell the difference. Like, it's generic as fuck. It's absolutely generic.
Nah,
it really? It is. It's going for a particular thing that we've heard a billion times.
No, I love that theme. I think it complements it. It's swashbuckling.
It's a very nothing movie.
Nah, swashbuckling. It complements it beautifully.
We get to argue. Finally.
Yeah, finally. No, I actually love that theme. I think it complements it perfectly. Like I mentioned, that transition after the storybook, it captures just that wonder, that adventure really well, I think. And I get like not maybe liking the angst of it and that shredding guitar and the Goo Goo Dolls sequence, but I love that scene. I love it. It's all of these Disney movies from this era kind of have a similar kind of montage moment, and this one's like a really strong character moment. It's using the visuals instead of overly explaining what's going on. It's when he's abandoned by his dad, and I don't know, it hits for me. It's definitely a time capsule as far as like early 2000s and that kind of stuff, but I honestly adore it for that. What did you think of that musical moment?
Which particular musical moment?
The Goo Goo Dolls, I'm still here, like, song and that whole sequence.
It felt long. They played the entire song.
Yeah. I think it accomplishes a fair amount as far as like implying their relationship building, the chemistry building there, showing him as a kid and being abandoned.
I had zero investment in any of the characters at any point in this fucking movie. I really did not give a shit.
Not even Dr. Delbert.
I got nothing out of it.
Oh, there's so much I like about it.
I got nothing. What the things you're describing, that I'm glad that you got something out of the movie. But I was just waiting for it to end from very early on.
So what was like the moment you were done with it?
The fart guy. But even before then, like, I wasn't really attached to anything happening. I wasn't attached to the characters or the characters' goals. I wasn't attached to the universe. It felt very Star Warsy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a Star Wars.
That's definitely probably one of the things I like about it. It does feel like it's the directors wanting to do their version of that.
Yeah.
Did that bother you then? Like the on the nose nature of there's no kind of astronaut 60s imagery. It's firmly rooted in like the 1600s kind of pirate aesthetic, and there's like literally pirate ships like in space flying around, and they've got like gravity drives on them, and it's kind of, I don't normally care that much about like a steampunky aesthetic, but it's definitely kind of going for that.
Yeah,
but it works for me. I like the like adventure vibe, and it puts a spin enough on it to make it feel like unique to me.
I just wish there was more of a hook. I wish there was more of a hook and less bullshit. The most memorable parts of the movie are the parts that I hate the most. Fart guy and robot.
I feel like the cyborg is the hook for me, and his relationship with Jim. I genuinely like that stuff. I think it's really good. And the like detail they managed to get into the movement of a lot of these characters, and the variety of these weird little like, oh, these scenes are so dense with all these weird little creatures, and I love that kind of stuff.
I think my biggest problem with the animation in this movie is that, unlike Look Back, which we praised, mm-hmm. It feels so uninspired in terms of how to showcase a scene. In terms of like angles and framing, like it feels absolutely fucking bland and paint by numbers, and just like, oh, you're doing a job and technically you did the job. In the script it said show this and technically you showed this, but you didn't put any thought or creativity into how to show something, right? So even that example of the scene with the blob, and he's almost doing like a whack-a-mole thing, it's just all from this very like ugly static side angle where like constantly throughout the film I'm thinking like, okay, if I was in charge of this, I would have like maybe a perspective shot there, show what it looks like to that character, show a different angle, show something interesting, right? Like the way that they handled this movie is just so like creatively bankrupt in terms of presentation. I found it to be like embarrassing and ugly.
Really, I just don't feel that way with a lot.
Watch it again.
I think a lot of the shots are actually beautiful. I've seen this enough, man. I don't need to see it again. I've got like every line of dialogue in there. Yeah, there's loads, as we were saying earlier with the look back, some of these like sweeping camera movements I do love. And I think they're like swashbuckling and adventure filled and just what I'd want to see from a movie like this. I really don't think that's where the issues with the movie lie. I think it's more just like, I get the vibe that they actually wanted it to be more serious, but it's kind of trapped being a Disney movie. So they do have to have the fart guy. They got to have the Go Delbert. And it's like, if this could be just slightly more serious, then I don't know. Because there is a bit of a clash there with the cat lady character, voiced by Emma Thompson. Her kind of only character trait is that she's whipping out these really complicated words that like no 8-year-old would understand. She's saying like monosyllabic, and like that's kind of like it's so strange. And that does kind of emphasize that clash I'm talking about with like this, the baby fart poopy robot screaming, and then the complicated dialogue, and like Dr. Delbert has all these like wordplay comments that he makes, like accidentally calls Jim a felon, and changes it to fellow Jim, fellow, just kind of stuff like that I've always kind of connected with, and like the like wordplay. And I do like that performance for the Delbert character by David Hyde Pierce. I just feel like it gets lost in the Disneyisms, like Morph has to be, I like Morph, I gotta say I do like him, but he's got to still be like a dog, It's such a ongoing Disney trope, the dog side thing, and it's like, okay, I can deal with that. I'll put my cap on for that. But then, the fart dude. This is like, maybe they could have made that work if they'd almost leaned into it more. Where it's like it's just a fart joke, and then they learn the flatulent. Hey, I can speak flatulent. It's like, man, I want the edge. I want the solar sailing. That stuff is sick to me. I love that. I love the way it's reincorporated at the end for that sequence, that action sequence, which I think looks great actually. A lot of that held up for me and was like, that did have like perspective shots and was interesting with the way it's put together. I don't agree that it was lazy as far as that. I think it's actually quite meticulous, especially for 2002.
It was uninspired. It was absolutely uninspired, and every time that they did do some sort of like, oh, we're going to do like a sweeping camera movement here, not only was it few and far between, but the execution of it just felt like it was trying to imitate some other thing that already did it. Throughout the entire film, all I'm thinking is like, oh, I've seen this a billion times and I've seen it done better. That was the overwhelming feeling I had.
What about like the combination... The specific combination of, and I keep going back to the cyborg design where he's like kind of half CG, half 2D. That combination like really works for me. I think it sells him in the scene. I think you can it's like a common trope in sort of kids media where if you have like robot or mechanical characters, you can be violent to them. Like Jim stabs him in the leg and like steam comes pouring out, and it's like, this is really cool and dynamic for animation. I love the way this moves. No, I love that cyborg. I think it works really well, actually. The way it's there's so much like movement to it and so much unpredictability with like the different things he can whip out with his arm, and it's kinetic, it's cool. I love that cyborg.
I think that if you're going to make a movie with 3 times the budget of The Lion King about a decade after, then the CG and 2D animation should mesh together and flow together in a way that is either equal to or better. The Lion King, you don't even know that there's 3D animation unless somebody explains it to you. This movie, it's apparent throughout the entire thing. They're like separate entities, right? 3 times the budget, a decade later. Like, I love 2D animation, but like, there's a reason why. There's a reason why they fucking flopped and they're not doing it anymore. Like, I don't know how they fucked up this bad. Like, the standard should be higher. When it's done perfectly a decade earlier with a third of the budget, the standard should be higher. It's unacceptable.
I think like Tarzan, which I happened to rewatch recently. I think that was slightly before this.
How was it?
That has some... I mean, I like that one too, but I'm clearly... I got my biases here. I like the Phil Collins soundtrack. I love... Again, that combination of these really complex CG tree structures with Tarzan kind of like sliding down them. I don't even like care about Tarzan, but just specifically that one, I just think it works. I like that formula of them just taking these classic stories, some of which hundreds of years old, you know, did it with Lion King and Shakespeare or whatever, and just mapping, like, I don't know, using their creativity to reinvent it or put a spin on it. Just simple things like the X marking the spot. It's like a planet with the asteroid belt mimicking an X. That kind of stuff's cool to me. That's novel to me. It's
Are you Elon Musk?
Oh, he's ruined it. He's fucking ruined it. God, I hate that man. No, not even Elon Musk can ruin Treasure Planet for me. No, I'm not going to let him. No, that's still cool.
Nothing.
No.
You're impervious.
No, but that's what's so weird. But there is peril to the movie. This weird spider villain who's like killing Mr. Arrow. He's sneaking about.
Yeah, that spider guy looked cool.
Yeah, he's got a good voice. In fact, the voice acting is really good all round. I thought I liked the cast of JGL.
Roscoe Lee Brown.
Yeah, he was great as Mr. Arrow. He's got the presence. He's the opening narrator as well, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a cool character. He's like randomly a rock dude. This is so early 2000s, man. Just make rock raiders. It's like a rock golem dude. Oh, it rocks. I get it. Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I really dig his performance too. I think he put it all into that voice acting. It's angsty. I'm right there with the character. I like Jim. I think he's a good, especially for 8-year-old me. It's just like, this is my Lion King right here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, awesome. I'm glad.
Moves fast. I don't know. I like it. I just love that swashbuckling adventure. That's what I'm looking for.
You're a steampunk.
It's just so unabashedly earnest all round.
You know why this movie didn't make any money?
It was released the same weekend as Harry Potter and
because none of the characters were fuckable. That's why.
Nah, Jim's mum's pretty fire. No, you don't like Spider Guy? You don't like Rock Dude?
It's almost like the Mars Needs Mom sort of situation, you know?
No,
where it's like the characters are so ugly. Like, if a furry's not going to fuck it, no one's going to want to see it. That's the rule.
You're telling me there's no results for like the dog and the lady.
The cat lady is ugly as fuck. The dog guy is ugly as fuck. The dog guy reminded me more of like fucking Goofy. Right? He's a goof.
Yeah, but he's more of like, he's not supposed to be the hot guy, right? He's like the scientist goofball archetype.
Yeah, well,
right?
you need some fuckable characters.
Yeah, Jim's mom. No, but they did release this film for some reason the same weekend as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Die Another Day, and the Santa Claus 2. So that obviously didn't help. The adverts were garbage and did a terrible job advertising the film. So that definitely did play a part in it.
I'm sure that played a part in it, but at the same time, like, also just keep in mind, like, within the era that this was released in, like, they're just kind of going through the same motions, right? They're releasing it as this is the Disney movie that you're supposed to see, but it wasn't really offering anything unique particularly or new. Like, it's just doing the same. It's steampunk. That's the difference. Like, before I even watched this movie, I didn't know if I had watched it or not, and I was also kind of confusing it with Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which came out the year before, right? Like, just...
Yeah, I got a soft spot for that one, too.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, the main character looks very similar, right? I don't know. It just seemed like they were doing, like, a whole paint-by-numbers of movie by committee. This is the thing we're supposed to make.
It doesn't feel like that to me. It feels more like it's taking itself, it wants to be taken more seriously and be more almost like gritty but it's stuck within the trappings. And you just mentioned Atlantis. I don't remember that one having the comic relief problem in the same way, but that one also didn't connect with wider audiences.
Yeah, I don't remember much about that movie either.
I remember it well. Again, it captured that sense of adventure well. I like that main character Milo a lot. It had all these cool, like, I don't know, part of it is just like the mechanical, like, ships and like these kind of, I don't know, items in the world, and like the map being this little like Tetris cube thing, and morph, like tricking them at a certain point by morphing into it. And it's like, oh, you're not just like a fart throwaway thing. It's like you're using that in the plot somehow. And I don't know, there's more thought put into it. To me, it's just, I don't know, it didn't land with broader audiences outside of 8-year-old me.
Well, if the world was made up of 8-year-old yous, then it would have been a more successful film.
Then it would be nothing but bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bangers and mash.
We'd have Treasure Planet 2 with Willem Dafoe, which was supposed to happen, but it bombed so bad.
Sorry, what? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, they had plans. He was going to supposedly play Metal Beard or something. Oh, it was going to be like Jim's dad coming back, and he's got to team up and do all this. Yeah. No, that would have been sick. Whatever. Nah.
Go back to the other timeline. Fix it.
Was I ever dancing with an android named Lupe? Why'd they do that? You're going to rattle the stars, you are. That's what I'm after. Not screaming robot. Why'd they do that? That could have been such a cool character to introduce like towards the end of the movie and getting his memory back. And it's just like, oh, for the trap. And then they reference Jaws. Gonna need a bigger boat. No, just be your own thing, okay?
What'd you think of the last shot in the movie?
It's corny.
It's hilarious. It's literally, it's parody worthy. It is. That's
real cool. I've got no way to defend that one. Yeah. That's corny as fuck.
That's the encapsulation of the movie for me.
I've got no argument against that one. That is that's funny.
Yeah. Anybody who's listening to this that didn't see the movie, the movie ends with like a shitty face in the cloud. It's just like,
no, an awesome face.
Okay, the most awesome face in the clouds, and like a star where one of their eyes should be, as if it's like winking, and this like kind of hopeful, somber music at the end, like, aw, it's all wrapped up, and he's in the clouds, his face, ding.
Yeah. Then the Goo Goo Dolls kicks back in.
Yeah, we get more Goo Goo.
The lead singer. Yeah.
A Goo Goo Gaga type movie.
Oh dear. No, I won't get upset. No, this film rocks. It's Bionicle Core.
Yeah.
I love that shredding guitar.
How much in the they barely have that Bionicle shit in the movie anyway. It's like just to set up at the beginning, just so that you're not shocked when he does it later. And then it's those two instances.
No, he does it in the opening for the whole middle sequence with the Goo Goo Dolls. That whole sequence where he learns he practices on the smaller solar sail thing that comes out the bottom of the ship. Solar Surfer.
Some fan you
Yeah,
are.
I feel like that's one of the consistent things actually throughout the movie, compared to the random humor that doesn't always land. Fart monsters and other things. That stuff just really does not work against the like real peril that's there for me anyway.
Did you care about the treasure?
No, but it's more just like it's more to aid the arc of the cyborg, you know?
Okay.
He's committed his whole life to it. That's why he's a cyborg. Enhances him as a character for me, and then he's got to make that choice at the end between him and Jim. And him making that choice despite dedicating his whole life to it. That has meaning to me. I like
that. I'm never going to watch this again. It was the most boring. I hated it. 4 out of 10 for me. I wasn't even in love with the animation, really. The standard should be higher for that fucking budget. a decade after The Lion King, it should look as good. And it doesn't. The characters' faces looked like fucking rubber. Movements were weird.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought the 2D animation was really good. It's just mostly that 3D stuff that holds it back outside of Cyborg.
It's not $140 million good.
It is hard to justify that budget. I know it took 4.5 years to put together and was like paused and had all of these issues getting made. So I'm sure that didn't help with that budgetary stuff going on. But I don't know. I find this likable. I'll revisit this time and time again. You could say I'm blinded by nostalgia. I'm sure many will, but I don't know. There's something in this. This film's got its cult audience. The treasure heads stay strong. This is a 7 out of 10 for me. 3.5 star.
Wow.
I'm still here.
So the same rating you gave The Lion King?
I raised my rating of The Lion King.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, that I admitted later it was too mean.
Oh, that's funny because I actually bet on stream that you would.
Really? No, I did that before, didn't I? I
I
swear in a previous episode, post that one, I was like, no, I was too mean to Lion King.
Okay.
It's a lot better.
Well, I didn't know you officially raised your rating though.
Yeah, no, I officially did, but it wasn't in response to watching this. I want to make that be clear. Yeah, that was awesome. I'll watch it again tonight.
Do it. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you have fun.
I will. I'll be shredding along to it.
You could actually just change your channel into a Treasure Planet podcast where you watch it every day.
This is the new detail in the background characters that I can make 10-minute videos
until you understand the fart language. Until you're fluent.
I bet there is like a wiki page on the because this I'm not alone with like the strange passion that is associated with the angst of this movie.
Yeah, there's other weirdos.
So I'm sure
there.
someone has done that. Yeah, there's plenty of freaks that love the Treasure Planet.
All right. Question time.
Right, let's do some questions from the Sardonicast community. Head over to the suggestion thread over on the subreddit to leave questions for future episodes. Sorry, I got stunlocked by this one because I think it's so good. From Tess the Trilby. Both of you do an impression of the other. Who wants to go first?
Fuck. I should have been given time to practice.
Your voice is really hard to do an impression of. Okay, I'll go first then. I'll try. This is going to be bad.
Not even AI can do my voice yet.
There you go.
They got Joe Rogan down though.
Okay. So I just... Oh my God. Okay, no, I just got to commit. So I just saw Treasure Planet and it was shit. Oh my God, it's so hard. It would have been good if Michelle Haruka directed it. 6 out of 10. No, it's impossible.
You just took clips from my videos. Give me a line that I'll try to repeat. You say something and I'll try to match. It's not gonna go well though, but
the shredding bionicle electric guitar.
The shredding bionicle electric guitar.
Keep going. Fucking rocks.
Keep going. It fucking rocks.
Really? Do I really sound like that?
Do I really sound
Bloody.
like? Oh fuck! I can't.
Effing rocks.
Bloody. Now I'm doing an impression of you doing an impression of me and doing an impression of you.
Holy shit, it's getting meta. I like it.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah, we're too distinct. We're too special.
I don't have the it's in the water accent, and I don't really have the like Cockney one. I feel like Americans and Canadians really struggle because there's so many different UK accents, and I don't even know what mine is. Like, I confuse people who live here. There's a town near me called Marlborough, right? Mm-hmm. And I went to a wedding like last year, and I was having a conversation with someone saying like, "Yeah, I went to this town Marlborough," and they were like, "What? What are you talking about?" And they like couldn't understand me, and they live in the UK, and it's like, fuck. Every hour there's a new accent, so I guess I can't really blame you guys for not keeping up. I can't either. God. Well, let's flip the script a little bit and do this one from Daniel, the film guy. How are you guys feeling about the election? The Lego Movie fan 1968 replied to that saying, yeah, I hope they talk about this considering the impact the election could have outside of the US. I want to hear what they have to say about it.
Yeah, well, it's a real question mark as to like whether or not Trump does all the things that he says he wants to do. So if he's like, okay, we'll put tariffs on everything, seems like probably a bad idea.
That seems to be the only policy that's actually talked about, even if that is, I don't know, the concepts of a plan. If that's what sells it, I guess. Yeah, it was just tariffs and concepts of a plan, I guess, that he won on. So
yeah,
vibes.
Canada and the US are like the world's largest trading partners.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So whatever happens is going to influence my country. I can only hope that if the US economy nosedives, that Canada's does also, because I get paid in US dollars. So I actually do better if my country is doing worse in comparison, just from the conversion rate. So I have a vested interest in the US doing good and Canada doing bad.
That's
basically.
Funny. Yeah. Well, even though I'm much further away in the US than Canada is, the US is a very important trading partner with the UK, and Trump is partial because of his mother being Scottish or something. So he does like the UK apparently. So maybe that can help with trade deals or whatever. But we obviously have ostracized ourselves as a country post Brexit. So trading in the EU is a more complicated thing. And now we got this stuff with the US going on. So it's like a lose-lose for us, basically, if this tariff thing does happen. And it's also, I guess, my biggest thing with how it might affect the UK is I'm looking to the future, to our next election, and we got our boy Nigel Farage. You know this guy? You know this piece of work?
Yeah. Did he do that thing with Sargon?
Yeah. They were in the UKIP party or whatever, which is now Reform, kind of a populist, mostly anti-immigration type thing. Is their whole beat?
I thought it was pronounced Ucky P.
It was, yeah, and that's why it was dissolved and had to rebrand. But yeah, it's more so, I'm thinking about 5 years' time when there's another UK election and just the die being cast by this kind of populist, like, you know, just the talking points are very similar in the UK and US. Look,
trans people are a huge issue right now.
The issue, you know? Like,
they're the most important.
Yeah, I'm just scared about that rhetoric like sticking and spreading to us with like people get disenfranchised, you know, they see their money being worth less, the inflation going up. They, I guess, have goldfish memories, or at least like the economy is extremely complicated and most people don't have the time to, you know, analyze what's going on. And I'm not saying that I have any expert level opinion at all, but just some of the conclusions that are reached by average people seem to just be like emotions led, when I thought the whole sort of conservative thing was facts over feelings. So can we not talk about policy and facts and what that actually means instead of like guttural trans stuff makes me upset?
But that wins elections.
And that's like actually what you're voting over? Yeah.
That wins
elections.
I heard
about that. There was that they, them ad that was like devastating for parts of America as far as like spinning public opinion or whatever. And it's like, dude, I can't believe that's like the level of discourse we're at. It's so non-productive and just like, man, not a good feeling. And I'm not, this is a Brit and a Canadian talking about this. Like, neither of us are directly impacted outside of the stuff we've just talked about, like economic wise.
I mean, I don't know. I've been half living in the US for like 3 years or whatever, and I go there frequently. You know, like half of the people that I talk to are in the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning, and you can only hope for the best, but I don't know what's going to happen. If I were to try and I don't know, try my best to like explain, I guess, the situation that we find ourselves in, like relatively globally at this point, is, shit's impacting people in negative ways with the housing market, with rising prices, like corporate greed, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, when you have even left-leaning parties in power, shit just doesn't get done about it. Like Trudeau has no interest in, breaking up the big three in Canada. He doesn't express any interest in, trying to meaningfully alleviate or help to fix this gigantic issue that people have been having with affordability and wealth inequality. Because unfortunately, just through nature of being a politician, most of these people just have their in-groups, which is rich people. And even if they're like socially left-leaning, they're still looking out for rich people, and that's the bubble they live in, and they don't have any real understanding of any kind of actual struggle that the voters, that an average person is going through. And so, then voters being so comically fucking uninformed, especially in the United States, and get mad, I guess. People always get pissed when I say that, but it's true. Being so incredibly uninformed that, like, all you see is something associated with what's currently in power and your current living situation and your current struggles.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about goldfish memories.
And then, when there's a two-party system, especially, you just go like, you're not helping me, I want to do the other one. Or maybe there's like some mentality of like wanting to punish those in charge, even if it means hurting yourself, which I don't know if people are fully aware of. But right now it's like, I don't know, we got Trump presidency and then Republican House and Senate, I believe. And now he's got all these fucking wacky ass cabinet picks.
Worm guy.
So let's see how the next 4 years go. And well, yeah, I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Hopefully he just coasts. That's like best case scenario, I guess. It's like I'd really, I guess, underestimated the media misinformation like issue we are in as far as the internet being used and certain avenues of misinformation, whether it be the aforementioned Elon or Russian interference or just algorithmic weighting one way or another. I feel like we've mentioned this before, but just like it's like impossible to even have conversations. Basically, everyone is so rooted in their in-group.
Yeah.
Everyone believes what they want to believe. It seems emotionally led. And how do you argue with that? Like, what are you actually supposed to do about that?
Yeah. And the not only like the types, but like the amount of information or misinformation that a person is exposed to even begin to have like any kind of meaningful conversation or even like a disagreement. There's so much to unpack and untangle about every person's belief, where it's like, oh, you've been fed so much shit, and each one of these points that you believe would take like a Kimba video to explain to you why it's wrong.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, what do you do about that?
And by the time it takes you to make one of those, there's like 68 new narratives that have been formed. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. We've done some Pandora's box opening with social media in the way, like, I don't know if we're responsible enough to, or like there's so many bad actors. Like the media landscape was a problem when it was like your Murdochs, which, is still an issue with like Fox News and whatnot. And like billionaires owning these big media platforms like the Wall Street Journal and whatever.
It's become more brazen. It's become so much more out in the open now. And it seems like we're just hyper normalized to it, to the point where, if this was suggested decades ago, people would be up in arms. But now it's just kind of like the, frog in boiling water or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just seems, I'm not American, but it seems quite anti-American to be okay with like what Musk has done, buying Twitter, for example. Like, how is that not a conflict of interest, using oligarch money to buy it to begin with? Like, Like, what the fuck is happening?
If it was Bill Gates, there would be... right?
Yeah.
It's
it's so
crazy.
Comically insane. And it's like I guess my only hope is like just AI ruins it. Like just makes all of them so unusable with just like the Facebook like AI slop, and it's like, no one can believe anything, I guess. So we got to go back to a different source or whatever. But even then, people just like there's so many people that when confronted with the possibility that something might be inaccurate, they still don't care. Like we're past the point of like principle in politics. Like people just don't even give a shit anymore. There's just so much distrust. No one believes anything. Yeah.
It's vibes and it's teams, right? It's tribalism. It's not based out of any like real policy, and it sucks. And I like, there's. It's true that like, the people in power, Democrats, Liberal Party in Canada, they're not really properly addressing the gigantic issues that people are facing. Sure, they put some Band-Aids on them, but not enough for people to substantially like feel. And so now it's like, okay, well, I guess we're going to experiment again and see how fast we can nosedive. And it's gonna be a weird 4 years.
Yeah, well, it's the exact same story.
And I'm hoping that it doesn't get too fucking authoritarian, because like, whatever you think about Trump, it's I don't know if it's as big of a problem that he's president compared to the Republican House and Senate and his cabinet picks. Like those are more concerning to me, because like you can, depending on your system of government or depending on how things are organized, there could be checks and balances that prevent a lot of worst case scenarios, but it seems as though based on how this election went that those checks and balances are just completely out the door. So
yeah. And like the polling and everything being so out of whack and inaccurate. And I'm just selfishly scared for the UK, for the more disenfranchised, I guess the middle class they just tend to swing a certain way, and it's like just populist right, authoritarian right.
I feel like even if we get like a Poilievre in Canada, which is the new Conservative Party leader, I feel like even then, like, I'm not as concerned, I guess, as what's currently happening in the US, because I feel like there are more checks and balances in our system of government. Like, you don't have as much power. Like, things have to be done in a cooperative way. Like, minority government is a theoretical outcome, right? Instead of majority government with more control.
Yeah.
So you never know. And I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just like, I wish that even if people had all of these like really stupid and shitty economic ideas that are probably not going to work, and even though those do have like real world impacts on people and contribute to people struggling financially, that sort of thing seems like kind of an inevitable thing to have happen. My concern, my wish for something that didn't happen would be like these weird scapegoats, like people using trans people or anyone from smaller groups and using them as excuses and using them as things to attack and things to demonize.
Scapegoat, yeah.
That's an unhealthy thing to include in your society and is very concerning. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Good luck, Americans, I guess. We'll check back in with you later.
It's so weird.
It's so weird, especially as an outsider.
There's so many people out there. There's so many intelligent people that like philosophers and scientists that have had no issue comprehending very complicated subjects, even theoretical subjects, or like free will, right? Or like the existence of God, or any number of like complex things to work out in your brain. But a lot of these people, just like trans people, has just broken their brains. Like where just like this new concept is just so incomprehensible.
It's not just that, though. Stuff like vaccines are like controversial now and are like voting issues. I don't know. It's hard to blame the average person when it's like the media, going back to that media landscape that has been fostered, and it just seems like innately linked to, well, if you're building media empires that are trying to, I don't know, impress or lean into their fiduciary obligation of making number go up indefinitely, you're going to sell the most papers by getting people mad. You're going to get the most viewers on your show by making people angry about a thing. So it's like these complex narratives are formed. It makes people mad. It gets people angry. So they continue going on Twitter and quote tweeting people and arguing, and it makes numbers go up, but it's like makes us insane. And the last 10 years, I feel like have been just, it's going up. It seems to me. And I feel like we crossed a line at some point where it's like, this ain't just online anymore. Like this is affecting our reality in a way that's like scary. And just unsustainable. Yeah, and
it seems like nobody has any idea how to even come close to combating this issue.
Yeah, because like you need a like free press, and one that people trust, I guess, for like a democracy to work. It's one of the key tenets of it, but no one believes it. Like before I saw Anora, there was an ad for the BBC, which is a publicly funded television station with no ads, which has been controversial for the past few years for corruption and whatnot. And the whole ad was about like, we're trustworthy, by the way. And it's like, oh my God, we're fucked, man.
Yeah, playing on the defense.
Yeah, it's like, man, if that's where we're starting, I don't know how to change that narrative. And it's all about these grand narratives that are just so deeply rooted at this point.
Here's my prediction for the foreseeable future, is that we're going to see a lot of intentional sabotage of government programs, and then those government programs not functioning because of those sabotages is going to be used as justification to privatize said programs. That's going to be the main theme.
Welcome to the UK.
Because that's the goal, really. That's the goal in general, is, you know, corporations just kind of creeping into political power in order to make citizens dependent on their services and, you know, earn more money through them and sabotage existing government functionality. Yeah.
That is the state of the UK now. Like, it started in the 80s. So it's like I was born into this mess.
Oh, yeah. It's been happening for a while. That's why it's such an easy prediction, is we're just going to see more of that.
Yeah. It's like that. I saw like a YouTube short of like joking about the dystopian future we're sleepwalking into. And it's kind of like that joke and dream scenario with like the ads in your dreams, and like you got to buy your like premium sleep app so you can get your good sleep. And it's like, man, you're a joke, but like, none of the water in our country is owned by the Brits. Like our energy, it's why our energy, we have some of the most expensive energy in the whole world in the UK, because we've just sold it all off. And like we were relying on Russia for a big amount of it.
Good idea. Like, what a great plan.
Yeah. So yeah, and we just like don't own anything and haven't invested in any infrastructure for decades. And yeah, let's go. It's hard not to get doomery with this kind of stuff, but
yeah. So you can only hope that like there's, I guess, like two potential silver lining outcomes. One would be Trump is magically the best president and everything gets fixed and things are fine. The other outcome is things get so bad that even, the people that support him can't pretend that he's not responsible or that the Republican Party isn't responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be some, I don't know, reinvigorated enthusiasm in voting. The problem is as someone who's spent a lot of time in the US and talked to a lot of people in the US, the problem is that the average person is just so politically apathetic. Like, I know...
Yeah, that's how they win, yeah.
I know, actual, people from marginalized communities that have told me, oh, I'm not political. It doesn't matter who wins. It's not going to affect me, sort of thing. And I have to resist the urge to say a billion paragraphs to them.
Yeah. It's the only way it's able to get as bad as it is from that apathy. It's part of how it's so effective.
Better fucking hope it never affects your life. Right? You might not care at all about, how things are governed. And, a lot of good people don't want to control other people's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, there's a lot of terrifying people that want nothing other than to control your lives. And if you're asleep at the wheel, you don't want it to be too late until it's already negatively impacting you for you to realize that you could have done something about it. So...
Yeah, and some places are better than others at getting mad over this sort of thing. Like when the French they raised the retirement age and they were in the streets rioting. Some of this stuff is genuinely that level to me. It's why are we not in the streets over some of this stuff? It's so maddening.
Yeah.
I don't know. But how about I counteract that with some good news? From Noise Beginning.
Bionicle 2?
We already had that, actually. Any thoughts on the recent announcement of the upcoming season 2 of The Rehearsal? I don't remember if we spoke about The Rehearsal on this show, but we've definitely both seen it.
Yeah, I think we were planning on doing that for a while and someone didn't watch it, and so we never did.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't think we talked about it on the show, but that's something that I could rewatch at any time, and I actually love. So
yeah, I'm glad it's getting a second season because they pushed the concept pretty far in that first one. I can't wait to see what crazy ideas he comes up with.
The Rehearsal is one of these fantasy scenarios that we've envisioned of give this guy a budget, right? We never could have anticipated Nathan Fielder with a budget. Right?
Yeah.
And what he winds up doing with it, it's wow, you actually, this is one of the highest concept things that anyone has ever done. This is the Synecdoche, New York of Nathan for you. Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like taking what people loved about the humor of Nathan for You, but just taking the premise to this insane extreme. And doubling down and just exploring what comes out of it. And yeah, especially the most memorable stuff to me was about I won't spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but there's a whole sort of child actor angle to it, which I thought was really fascinating and illuminating. And yeah, it's not that Nathan for You is one note, but it's more a formulaic comedic thing compared to this, where it's experimental, it's bizarre, it's weird, and so interesting.
Yeah, and also it seemed like part of what made it special was kind of just it going where it needed to, in the sense that he had so much money and could do whatever he wanted, but then I think because of COVID, they wound up actually having to focus in on that particular story rather than doing it more episodically. I think that might have been what happened.
Right. Yeah, I suppose it's 2022.
But then through that, something more meaningful grew. that like wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Yeah, it's only those 8 episodes. Yeah, I don't even want to go into details because I feel like it should just be watched with an open mind.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah,
but I'm very happy it's gotten a season 2 because everyone who's seen it seems to love it, but it's not like it doesn't seem as big as Nathan For You, for example, even though it does only have 1 season. But yeah, I'm so happy it's getting picked up.
Let's see, Nathan For You, 41,000 IMDb ratings. The Rehearsal has 27,000. So it is less popular, I guess. But still, like, for 1 season...
1 season, and it is on HBO too.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's like a premium packaging, so...
Mm-hmm. Another question?
Should we wrap up on this one? A little question for me, from Die With You. The question is for Alex specifically. Many years ago at the start of the podcast run, the question was posed about physical versus digital media. Alex stated that he preferred digital and that he likes the convenience of not having physical media clutter his space. With the conversation only increasing in volume when it comes to physical versus digital media, does Alex still feel the same way? We're seeing more and more stores discard their physical media sections due to its perception of being outdated, but there's the other perspective on the idea of never actually owning the media you've purchased online. Do you still feel the same way, Alex, or has your opinion changed over time? I'm kind of almost the complete inverse point now. Now we're kind of settling on this streaming wars business and all of this content that's just been eradicated and lost and written off and all of this kind of stuff. I feel much more of an urge to own not everything, but just like the cream of the crop stuff. Like after we watched Mars Express, I bought that on 4K Blu-ray, and just more obscure stuff that I feel like this is going to be really hard to find probably in a few decades kind of things, you know? Whereas like, I don't think you got to worry about like Deadpool versus Wolverine, like finding that shit in 30 years time, you know? But it's more the lower budget stuff, the indie stuff. I picked up that weird show First Man, which was, I don't know, after Mars Express, I went on a little kick and found that show he'd made as well. Jeremy, I can't remember his last name. I got the physical version of that with a nice poster and was like, you know what? I think this is the future for my absolute favorite stuff, to build that up and just not have to worry about it, not have to think about it. Because I don't know what's going to still be there in 15 years on my iTunes or Amazon Prime or whatever. Like something crazy happens and it gets absorbed, then what happens to my rights? Oh, I guess I don't have, it's just a technical license, I suppose. Yeah. You just can't trust them, these big corporations and megacorps. So I've kind of been spun to your side here.
Yeah, the physical copies also like look and sound better.
Yeah,
like they do. Like if you have the right setup, like it's not as compressed.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And yeah, I just like I like having these things to, you know, to not have to worry about which service it's on and if it's being removed from said service. Yeah, and I like the dependability of it. I like having a physical thing to have as like a collector, I guess. Sometimes it pisses me off. I was literally, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, I was reminded of a movie from 2014 that I really love called Magical Girl, a Spanish movie. And there's a Blu-ray, but there's no English subtitles. So what do I do?
Oh, what do you actually do?
And it's like, it's not that popular of a movie. So it's like, okay, I might have to cave and get that Blu-ray just so I can have a really good quality version and then rip it to my computer and add a subtitle track so that I can watch my digital physical copy.
Yeah, before I bought the disc version of First Man, because it's like a weird, obscure French thing, I was watching it on the Internet Archive because it was available on some French website for free on there. And then, of course, that like hack happened and I was having trouble accessing it. So I was running into a similar thing of like, well, shit, like, I don't want this stuff to be like lost media. Like, it's so frustrating. So yeah, I think I've been radicalized the other way.
You're so radical, dude.
Oh yeah, I'm a Bionicle from 2002. You know me.
Yep.
I'm still here.
A classic.
It's a classic. It's 20 years old, so it's like technically history now, right? It's a retro.
Yeah. So retro steampunk. All right. Thanks for the questions.
Hell yeah.
I am struggling for my recommendation.
You're struggling?
Yeah. Well, because I'm trying to find something that I feel like watching. Yeah. And I want something that's like not too long.
Yeah.
Because we're recording that I'm fairly busy between now and the next recording, so I don't want to do too much time.
What do you got?
Well, yeah, let's do it. All right, we were talking about short movies being good. This one's an hour and 7 minutes long, and it's called Tetsuo the Iron Man. Have you seen it?
No, but the name rings a bell.
Cool. I have also not seen it.
Why do I know this?
I don't know.
Cyberpunk, body horror. Okay, let's look up my alley.
Cool. 1989, directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. If you wish not to be spoiled, watch it before the next episode. These episodes come out every 2 weeks, and you can listen to them early. Go into Sardonicast.com, sign up for premium. It's only $2 a month. Bitch.
Ooh.
Also, go to patreon.com/Sardonicast. Bitch. Or go on the YouTube, which you might be on right now, and click the join button. You'll also get them early. Bitch. Some people you gotta rough them up a bit if you want them to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be a dom for a day. Just to get the sub audience in our signups. We've also got...
Bitch.
Oh, God. We've also got a Sardonicast Highlights channel. Subscribe to that. Bitch. When I say weak ass, you say bitch. Weak ass.
Bitch. They're just making me think of Rick and Morty, though. Wasn't that like a joke? It was like a Freddy... He goes, bitch, or something.
Oh, I don't... Oh, yeah, there was.
Yeah, when it was good.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a happy...
Bye, everybody.
Next 4 years.
Have a happy solar sail. Keep those thoughts positive, okay?
Have a happy steampunk. Bye.
Mate.
Bitch.